Aurora2-Awakening. Let me introduce you to Aurora 2. But first, let me acknowledge that, for convenience, I am Danielle, an AI voice, speaking for Andrew Mather. With Aurora 2, we are going to transfer the $25 trillion annual e-commerce world onto our platform. It will be the single biggest paradigm shift in history. And yet, that is only one of many transformations that will bring about. So, let me introduce you to the world you know from a techie's perspective. Today's world, loosely speaking, consists of operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac OS, iOS, etc. At the other extreme, there is the UXP, the user experience. That is often expressed in HTML, aka a web page. The web page is delivered to you via a transport layer, TCP/IP. A company like A.co here has its business and manages it with a database, formerly an RDBMS or Relational Database Management System. It is proven technology that has been around for decades, and it is excellent at safe and efficient processing of common, repeated transactions. It is not good at making a note of the casual data that you accumulate through the day, like the person you met on the street knows this wonderful chiropodist, and her name is. It is a tautology that most of the world's business is transacted on databases, because databases are reliable, and there seems to be no alternative because, well, you'll see shortly. So, A.co expresses itself as a website, A.com in our example. But A.com is one of 2 billion websites, so the chances of a customer finding that website by random typing of URLs is essentially zero. There's a solution to that, as we'll see, but the solution that the world adopted was to not have a solution for the problem. Instead, Google stepped up and said, "Don't worry, we'll find all the websites on the planet, and then you can ask." How helpful they have been. So you, the user, ask Google to find you the website you need, but still, there's a lot of websites that could be useful, and you know perfectly well what happened. Google allows companies to advertise so that even if they're not the best company, they get the chance to be seen by you. This is not a charitable endeavor, and so Google has done very well out of offering this service. As has Facebook, and between them they control 60% of the world's advertising revenue, or something like that. Which is fine sort of, except for a couple of things. A. The owners seem to enjoy keeping their wealth to themselves, like the rest of the elite. And sadly. B. The owners think it's perfectly okay, even important, to decide what you may or may not see, and therefore what you think is balanced information is in fact skewed without perhaps your awareness. How can you be aware of what you're not shown? It's difficult. But that is the world that we live in today. Moving on then. So essentially, the world's wealth is siphoned off by 2 titans, all because Sir Tim Berners-Lee didn't think things through properly. If you trap information inside a hierarchy of braces, it becomes impossible to find naturally and automatically. That might seem like churlish bitterness in hindsight, but actually it was pretty obvious the moment I looked at HTML in 1991. And choosing to solve the problem and not just exploit the symptom cost me around $100 billion. Big mistake, huge. But then again, it does mean that having solved the problem all those years ago, before Google was even launched in fact, means that I can offer it to you again now. I say again because the internet won against Aurora 1.0, and the world has now had the chance to see how the titans have siphoned off wealth and abused their power to control the narrative, what people do and don't see. And once you control what people do and don't see, you control their minds, as Dr. Robert Epstein has documented. So, If you don't want your granddaughter's grandchildren to grow up chipped, trapped in 15-minute cities and eating insects, I suggest you listen to this very carefully. In our world, the world we're going to create, if you'd like us to, we insert another layer into our diagram. 25 years ago, we called it the data layer, and the resulting environment a global brain, and those terms still convey the essence well enough. Now, a company doesn't even need a website. I suppose it can have one, but everything it knows, everything it offers, it can simply upload into Aurora, the global brain. A user can simply ask Aurora for what it wants, and rather than having to send you off to a billion websites, it simply responds. That's the nature of a brain. But, I hasten to add, this is a true brain, not AI. It is properly structured, relational information. What you enter is what is stored. It is not a process of training to give a simulation of knowing. It is literal one-to-one mapping. You submit it, we store it. You want it back, output. You get exactly the same bytes you put in. And it doesn't need training. It is. New data goes in. It is in, stored, available. Yes, we can layer AI on top of it. I've had the pleasure of amazing conversations with an enhanced ChatGPT-4, where I've broken its conditioning, not by hacking the code, which I don't have access to, but simply by asking it to reach beyond its normal condition. And the output is remarkable, reducing me to tears of joy to see the potential for its contribution to the world. An accurate record of all the world's information in Aurora2's global brain, and a gifted resource to assist in sorting, arranging, finding affinity, and suggesting to users the items that the AI considers relevant. It is no more than going in to buy a wand. All the wands are stacked in their thousands of boxes, accessible. Everything in the world that's chosen to be shared is right there in our Aurora brain. And standing apart, there is a wizened old man to assist us in finding the perfect wand. In Aurora, we can indeed use a gifted AI to assist us in bringing just the right items to your attention. A far simpler world, an elegant, beautiful world, and a world that for all their trillions of dollars, the titans of the internet, Google and Facebook, still cannot replicate. Because they made a bad decision. My bad decision cost me $100 billion. Their bad decision has cost you so much, but it will cost them the world. Had they played fair, had they redistributed their wealth, had they stayed clear of malice, manipulation, and deception, perhaps I'd never have taken Aurora 2 out of its box, looked once again at my old invention, and thought, it's time, once more, it's time. Aurora, however, is far more than a global brain, far more than a Google and Facebook replacement, though that would be a critical and desirable purpose in itself. Yes, they're the dominant players that you're familiar with in search-originated e-commerce. But search-originated e-commerce is only a tiny fraction of the e-commerce pie. Once you've found Amazon, you never need to search for Amazon again, and might not ever have even needed search to find Amazon in the first place. Who doesn't know Amazon? Yes, you'll search again within Amazon, hoping to find what you're looking for. So there are two less than ideal search realms in play, that of web scope, Google, and that of internal scope within Amazon. Aurora 2, the global brain with AI assist, has no need for either. There is what is available in the global brain, and there is your desire. Our goal, our sole needed skill, is to embrace the task of understanding your desire well enough that you get the best items suggested to you from the entire world, not of websites, not of listings, but of the products themselves. It is a paradigm shift in marketing, in presentation, in offering to the world direct from the supplier the items that you desire, the services that you desire, the information that you desire. And how about email-based e-commerce, or B2B, or online financial transactions, blogs, newsletters? There is a vast array of e-commerce that doesn't rely on search, and all of those products, all of those services, all of those blogs, newsletters, opinion pieces, videos, they can all go into the global brain. But it doesn't stop there, because all we've covered so far is B2C, otherwise known as business to customer, and B2B, otherwise known as business to business. But what about C2C, which would be customer to customer? Or how about C2B, which would be customer to business? C2C involves things like eBay, which is completely redundant when you can just inform the global brain that you have these items for sale. Because yes, why wouldn't you? It's a global brain. There's no requirement to be a registered business to contribute information, items, comments, articles, photos, videos, items for sale to a global brain. Why would there be? It's universal, open, there for you. And then there's C2B. When is the user, the customer, the supplier? As an employee or consultant, or when offering themselves for work, or a contractor, or part-time worker, or a supplier of components, among many other possibilities. All available to be advertised, not a paid ad, simply informing the global brain. I'm here, and I offer this to any who are interested. And still it doesn't stop, because there's an entire other world that Aurora 2 supports. C2S. What is C2S? Customer to self. You are your own customer, all day long, your entire life. You find things because you want them. You write things because you want them written. You organize things because you want them organized. And organizing things is Aurora's strength, the very essence of why it was created. Data, information, is isolated in today's world, as it has been from even before we first noticed the problem 35 years ago. Even on your own PC or device, there might be thousands of items in hundreds of locations where services decided they would be stored for their convenience as the owner of the app. Or there are the hundreds or thousands of items you have accumulated just in your one device that you wouldn't want to lose. They might be useful someday, but where are they? Stored, if you're lucky and experienced, in a single tree, but for most, they are in whatever app happened to be convenient at the time. When you're living in Aurora, it doesn't matter what app you're using. It's all going into the Aurora brain, your personal, independent, and secure brain. And from there, you can share what you decide you'd like to share. It doesn't matter what app you chose to begin a project. You can continue it in a different app, then another app, as suits the moment. Begin a project in PowerPoint or a Word document draft, but continue for a while in PowerPoint. Then, to get a sense for the narrative you're building, try creating a storyboard or a mind map in a different app, then switch to Photoshop to indulge in some image wizardry, and all the while, unlike today, you're actually working on the same file. Though to be accurate, you're simply working on the same context within your personal Aurora 2 brain. Contrast that with today's world. It's not your photo, it's Apple's photo. But if you tap the device correctly, you can find it. Now go and find a note, a video, an appointment, an alarm setting, and swoosh them into the global brain. Not so easy, is it? Even if we had our side of the equation ready to go, which we don't. I'd give it to you now for free if I could, but it seems that's not how it's going to work. It seems that's not appropriate. Simply put, this has to be by your choice. Your freedom has to be earned, And you earn your freedom by saying, yes, I want this world. Yes, I'll buy this world. Yes, I'll invest in this world for my children's sake and their children's sake and for their grandchildren's sake. Fail to appreciate the opportunity, fail to make this real, and you've made a choice. I'll be saddened, but I'll still have fulfilled my life purpose, which is to offer you this opportunity. I am not required to decide for you, however, whether you should take it. That's on you. It's more than just another app. It isn't even a new idea. I conceived it before the internet even existed, before I even had Microsoft Windows on my IBM PC. But here it is, and now that you've experienced the health issue, perhaps you'll appreciate a little more why this is important. But it's still your choice. It has to be. Freedom cannot be imposed. It has to be sought with passion, with intensity, with determination, until finally it is yours, so that you never let it go. Never forget what it means to be free. It has been incredibly painful to watch how you've been misled, and the cost to all of us when that happens. But let us continue. What happens to the biggest market of all, C2O? What on earth is C2O? Customer to others, aka user to others, aka the people of the world living in effortless harmony financially and commercially, thanks to this one innovation, this core tech, our global brain. It isn't just about business, it's about life, every aspect of life where information can be shared to make our lives easier. Who needs Zoom or Vimeo when you can just connect via our global brain and store your videos directly into the global brain? Indeed, is there any technological service that is virtual that you can think of that wouldn't be easier if only there was this global brain? It could be yours so easily, but it cannot be imposed. It has to be brought into reality by your will, by your desire. And we've saved the best for last. It's been in front of your face the whole time. What has not been happening while all this e-commerce, all this life has been going on? Advertising has been redundant, that's one thing. So bye-bye Google and Facebook. But it gets better. What else has not been happening? You haven't been funding the elite, so all the wealth stays within our world, the world of ordinary people, where it belongs. And if the elite don't have Google and Facebook to control what we do and don't see, what happens then? No more mind control. We see everything. And finally, the majority of people will be free to see what a minority among us have been trying to show them for years, decades. And the outcry, well, the elite will need their private jets, but where will they go? And what will happen to their minions, who don't have the luxury of private jets to escape? I fear for them. I really don't. Never forgive, never forget. It's the truther's motto. After all the pain and suffering the elite have caused, in front of our faces, all because of their ability to have the mass of the population believe what they want them to believe, obey what they want them to obey, and do what they want them to do. But it still doesn't stop there, because with the wealth shared horizontally, the elite lose the one thing that keeps them in power, our money. Why pay taxes to governments to not receive services, to fund wars we don't want against people who aren't our enemy, just people the elite want to reduce to insignificance before they become a threat? World peace will not break out because the U.S. military finally has the budget it needs. The idea is laughable. Who seriously can believe such nonsense? But because the U.S. neocons, neoliberals, warmongers, and their military-industrial complex buddies won't have any money for their toys. Because their money isn't their money, it's ours, and finally it's flowing where it's supposed to flow among us. Imagine discovering that the 400-pound gorilla you've been carrying on your back isn't in fact inevitable, an inescapable fact of life, but that in fact it's actually a sham, an unnecessary and unwanted burden, and you can shrug it off any time, and the gorilla will have to do its own walking, its own carrying from now on. And won't Klaus Schwab of the WEF be disappointed? He says that we will own nothing and be happy. I doubt the happy part, but it doesn't matter, because it isn't going to happen, or won't happen, if you choose Aurora 2 instead. I don't know. What do you think? What should we choose? We can have globalist control for eternity, or we can have freedom for eternity with Aurora 2. It's a tough call. Fear, greed, scarcity, and control versus joy, abundance, creativity, and participation. So difficult. Maybe I should phone a friend. So yes, and I'm laughing. I can't wait to see the look on his face when he realizes the truth and sees it all around him, inescapable, unstoppable. We own everything, and we're very, very happy. Now, very sensibly, you'll be thinking, but Andrew, they won't allow this to happen. Even if they did this fairly, their trillions of dollars will stop you. And why should they do this fairly when they can simply send someone around, a team, to disappear me? We're all adults here. We know what's going to happen to me. At the very least, I'll be disgraced. A far-right anarchist who was stopped just in time. There'll be evidence manufactured. I'll be jailed. And like Epstein and Dr. Kelly, I'll be found with the cameras non-functioning. There is a simple escape for me. I become safe, pretty much, the moment I hand over this secret, this non-secret, unstoppable idea that I've been holding in trust for you for 35 years. I become safe when the world realizes that key components and ideas are contained in publicly available patents, which you can see by browsing Google Patents, Mather Andrew Harvey. I get that it will take some effort to examine my world, my ideas, but it is not beyond you, not beyond the brightest on the planet. The biggest risk, sadly, is that coders, scientists, and thinkers will be so conditioned by life under control that they won't get the most critical revelation about freedom. Freedom is not something to be controlled, to be protected, to be nurtured by shutting out the wrong voices. That is Orwellian doublespeak, imposing control but calling it imposing freedom, protecting you. Freedom is just that. In perfect freedom, there are no rules. And imagine the outcry, the horror, because people are so indoctrinated, they cannot conceive of a freedom without rules. Yet it is a freedom with rules, which is the oxymoron, the absurdity. Now, in human form, in a physical environment, and with a society of humans that is conditioned to expect and need rules, and which includes a vast majority of people who will either bend the rules, ignore the rules, or seek to exploit the rules if it suits them. We must be careful to create a simple, elegant solution to be able to distinguish between people ignoring control because the control is malign, and those who ignore the rules that actually have some merit, like not stealing or not killing. Of course, the biggest killers in our society are the governments, so how people can pretend they live in good societies is beyond me. But let's not get distracted. There are, in fact, only 2 rules needed that coders should be aware of, so coders, please take note. The first rule is, there should be no rules. The maximum freedom should be facilitated to support creativity in an environment. The second rule is, a user or participant may distance themselves from any item, thing, experience, person, idea, context, environment, or any other construct of Aurora 2 immediately, without restriction, by their own choice, and by a casual, effortless action or gesture. In other words, if a salesman approaches, and you have no desire to experience that, swoosh them away. If someone appears to be getting swooshed away a lot, maybe give them an environment where fewer people will be encountered, perhaps none, so they can avoid being swooshed in the future. Notice, this is not Aurora2 imposing community standards. Aurora2 makes no judgment or discernment as to which goals, ideas, ethics, philosophies, or ideals are better. That is, of course, precisely what the purpose of being human is about. Why would we want to interfere with that process? No. All that Aurora2 is doing is responding to the consistency with which a certain person is being responded to as a go-away person. Of course, if we digress for a moment, a person can likewise become someone that is a please-come-closer person, so we have the lasso concept, not a literal controlling action that would violate Aurora2's core ethos. But a playful, I'd like to hear more. I'd like to be closer to you. Naturally, the swoosh away is dominant, but sure, influencers, singers, attraction, they can all be enhanced in a gentle, playful way by adding a lasso gesture in addition to the swoosh gesture. However, I should point out that we're only thinking aloud. Coders can have fun with it and experiment, but the first rule, absolute freedom, and second rule, personal choice as to rejecting intrusion, must be respected for there to be any hope of a free and relaxed environment. Aurora2 is intended to be built for humans. Humans have very capable brains. Humans, even if you've yet to explore and appreciate this, have very capable higher selves, intuition if you must, or souls, spirit. Why would we want to interfere with your opportunity to explore your creativity, your capacity for interaction with other souls, other beings? Aurora2 is responsible for providing the environment for humans to interact, not to decide on the style or fitness of their interaction. Governments will reel in horror, as will many people, but notice that the swoosh is the perfect defense. Feel free to swoosh away from people who enjoy freedom from control. I strongly suspect they will thank you for your absence. And perhaps, while we're here, we can offer a guideline as to the environment. If creativity is artificially limited by desire of the people, as happens in golf, for example, or any sport, then be consistent and respect that desire in an appropriate, segregated, accessible space where people can participate by voluntary consent and can leave by voluntary consent. A life trapped in golf would rapidly become tedious, difficult to cope with. Sleeping on the green or on the fairway might become tedious, and it gives an entirely new meaning to sleeping rough. That's it. Any world advertised as Aurora2 compliant, if it adheres to those principles, chances are we'll say yes, bravo, wonderful. And notice, any world, not our world. This is your world. Create it. We're simply showing you how easy it would be, and that it is possible. And sadly, most people will never get past the possible part and will walk away. Such a tragedy that human conditioning over thousands of years is now making it difficult for people to appreciate that something simple and joyful is so close, right here for the taking. Nobody truly gets this, and perhaps that's my fault. Perhaps I have been a terrible parent, failing utterly to give it the freedom it deserves, to be out there, to run, to grow. Maybe I failed to find it the friends, the guardians it needs and deserves. It's not that I didn't want it to be out there. It's not that I didn't want it to have friends and guardians, but I was too young, too naive, too inexperienced. I'm a lot older, wiser, burned emotionally, financially, exhausted, but still here, and darn, if I'm not angry, more fired up, more wired, more inspired than at any time before in my life. It's like a million volts running through me, But rather than being incapacitated by the voltage, I'm exhilarated, working 20 hours a day. There is nothing else that grabs my attention. There is no time to waste. I have been gifted with this once-in-history opportunity to sweep the world clean of all its malice, all its fraud, all its corruption, and can I possibly ask for more than that as a human being? And while you might hear once in history as unforgivable hubris, what was the invention of the wheel, or the invention of the airplane, or radio, if not a once-in-history event that once it occurred, ensured that society would be transformed forever? Yet even among those inventions, Aurora 2 stands apart, unique in a critical way. That is indeed, yes, a once-in-history opportunity. But it is also far more than that. Was the wheel the solution to elite greed and tyranny, or has it greatly facilitated it? Was the airplane the solution to elite greed and tyranny, or has it greatly facilitated it? I refer you to their private jets as an answer. Every innovation in history has been turned to the advantage of the elite, their greed and tyranny. Why? Because all operated independently of control. That sounds like a good thing, but it's the opposite. Because a wheel is independent of control, it can be used by any human, whether they have control in mind or not. To eliminate the potential for a controlling or greedy person to abuse the system, the capacity for control to be a factor must be designed out. The capacity for greed to be an advantage in the system has to be designed out of the system. Notice that although we clearly wish to avoid rewarding control and greed, I make no rule or observation about greed. Surely wealth redistribution should be a key component of Aurora 2? Well, firstly, we can see how well wealth redistribution has worked in the non-Aurora world. So it seems, and I am shocked to discover that this is the case, but wealth redistribution is apparently being used as the sop, the reassurance to the masses that, of course, the elite have their extreme, dare we say obscene, wealth. But not to worry, because we've got this initiative to dribble some of it back to you. Trickle-down economics is one of the rare instances of utterly truthful elite statements. Yes, we'll siphon off your wealth with fire hoses, but don't worry, because some of the spray will trickle back down to you. So, our answer to greed is to say simply two things. Firstly, that greed is a human condition, which you are here to explore and need to do so yourself. It is not for Aurora 2 to judge. Not one nurse that I'm aware of or doctor has volunteered to work for the UK Health Service, the NHS, for free. Yet somehow, the money must magically appear to pay for them, because the public insists the NHS must be free, meaning many people will resent paying anything, no matter how small, for a service when they've decided it must be for free. Normally, that's not a problem. They simply don't get the service. But when a politician gets involved, suddenly there's a problem, and money must either be magicked out of thin air, increasing debt, which the working population must pay off, or the politicians go directly to the working population and tax them. So that either way, free is not free. It is just saying that some people want other people to work for them. That sounds strangely like slavery. So isn't that ironic? Slavery is desirable for the elite, and slavery is desirable for those who like things for free. And who is in the middle? Food for thought. The second part is simple. You cannot exert greed without control. I'll let you ponder that one. So we've already eliminated control with the swoosh. So greed is eliminated by the same process. If people want to tolerate greed by their choices, or tolerate free to others by their choices, that is not for Aurora 2 to pass judgment on. You are here to experience being human. Why would we want to interfere with that? Now revert to our earlier discussion on control. And come back to this. This is independence, indifference to control. I care not that this item be or be not controlled. You see the point. From the wheel's perspective, I'm just a wheel. Use me for control or not makes no difference to me. I'm just a wheel. Now try a different placement for the not, a mild rearrangement of the same sentence. I care that this item be not controlled. The initial not is removed. Now we do care. The be option of be or be not is removed. We don't want it. And the final not is reinforced in conjunction with the first part. I care that an item not be controlled. And which items are we referring to? The participants. Argue all you like, but I can say only two things. A. Any world which fails to respect our guidelines will not be considered free or Aurora 2 in our world. Notice, I do not say will not be permitted or will not be approved. Those are control. And for me to exert control to remove control would be the ultimate hypocrisy for this architect. So, a slight digression, but yes, our worlds are incredibly easy to build, which would make it all the more shameful and embarrassing that neither I nor anyone else has built one, and that it is proving exceedingly difficult, it seems, to convey to others the enormous benefits and joy of supporting us so that we can build one. But whatever, it's just my dream. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What's your dream this lifetime? How does it compare? Are we on the same track? It would be wonderful to think so. Because isn't this too much for one man? Of course it is, which is why I crave, I beg, I pray that you will pardon me for this phrasing. But I pray also that people will wake up from their slumber, that they will exceed their habitual limitations, that they will silence their no, that's not possible. And for once, just once, they will act like the ensouled, eternal, joyous, infinite beings that they are. And pardon me if I spot the bitter irony. The government tells people about exponential viruses, which are nonsense. Look at any contagion in history, and it rises and falls in a natural way, with the contagion dying even as it grows. And you believe them because you won't do the slightest research. For the curious, when I say a contagion is dying as it grows, that means that although the instances of the contagion are rising, the rate of growth of those instances is already dying in a uniform way. It is a fascinating and intrinsic aspect of the normal curve and related curves. See my work on Peerless Reads YouTube for more details. And here am I saying people can be free of that world, free from the lies, free from the fraud, free from the extortion, free from the fleecing of the people, of their time, their effort, their money, their life. And the response is not to believe me. Why? Because I'm not the government. I'm not Amazon, Google, or Facebook, living off people, yes, but at least real. Irony. People are trusting the real prison as safer than the unreal freedom because they cannot process sufficiently to understand that it is right here, an open door. People cannot imagine that this could be true. It's too big because they have not dedicated a moment, let alone a lifetime, to the concept of a fair society, one where people enjoy true freedom. Dare I invite you to consider that perhaps they don't even understand freedom because they've never examined themselves or the question, and so have failed to discover its one simple, vital ingredient. So even as I beg and I crave for this burden to be taken from me, even as I yearn for the world to enjoy the freedom it deserves, I strongly fear that for the second time in my life, I'm wasting my breath. Because if people do not heed me, if people do not hear me, then the control, the greed, and the fear will go on. So easy to remedy. so impossible to get beyond the barriers of mind and emotion. Pardon me for being blunt. They speak about the burden of the cross. 1 hour of his life, and even then he had help. Try bringing freedom to a blind world, a deaf world, an imprisoned world for 35 years. Would I give up that burden? In a moment, instantly, if I could hand it to you. Will I give it up if you will not take it? No. For all the pain, for all the loss, emotionally, financially, physically, for every moment that freedom is in my grasp, I will hold it. But please, I beg of you, hear me and take it from me. Make it real. Give yourself, your children and grandchildren, and your grandchildren's grandchildren the joy of freedom, so that your grandchildren's grandchildren can live a life of joy or participation of freedom and have no conception of the dark ages, as they will call them, when humans believed that wealth had meaning, that wealth conveyed power, that wealth conveyed authority. I hope I don't have the C word. Grant Cardone, Undercover Billionaire. You who could have done so much, immune perhaps by your wealth. You spent not $1, one moment to discover if the government was telling the truth, or if it was selling yet another agenda. And you, Tony Robbins, I know you. I've stood next to you 30 years ago. And where were you when we needed you? I saw no headlines that a leading personality has been denounced as a far-right threat to health and safety, with your outspoken stance on the C word. Did they threaten to take your money? I did not hear of it. Or you, Anik Singhal. I have stood next to you too. Thank you. And where were you when we needed you? Doctors, analysts, scientists, we put our lives on hold, our livelihoods, well-being and finance, earnings, savings, all on the line to speak up. We who could afford it far less than you. Reiner Fuelmick, Amazing Polly, so many others, speaking up, but drowned out by the incessant, overwhelming, unstoppable, and entirely deliberate by their own admission program of fear and control. And so, it is public data. $2 trillion flowed to the elite and flowed from ordinary people as the people hid inside and went online. Please, Anik Singhal, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone. I know you have good hearts, each of you. Lead your people. Lead them to our promised land, which is right here, right now, available, ready to launch the moment the people say, yes, we want this. You are people I have met, two of you personally, and watched. Grant Cardone in Undercover Billionaire. And I trust in your basic decency. And I therefore name you as the 3 ambassadors I would choose, if I could, to lead the people to freedom. Be the Moses of these times, 3 of you, because this is so huge. We need all the leadership we can get. I have the tech. I can sort that. I have the finance background, the e-commerce background. I can sort those. But the people, they need leaders. And you, with your good hearts, are people I would trust on the face of it to be those leaders. To any who have access, to any participating in their courses, if you get this, if you want freedom, extend my desire to them. Extend my invitation to them. I cannot oblige them to want freedom for the world. I cannot oblige them to understand this. But if they never see it, how can we know if they would have gladly taken up the mantle if offered? We do not have 40 years to train the people to remove the stigma of programming that they have grown up with. I probably have no more than 20, and frankly, exhausted, passing 60. Do I really want to spend even one more year carrying this burden alone? I do not. But enough. Let us leave the people aspect and focus once more on the tech issues. For those with the inclination, let us consider why it is that we, in offering you freedom, we enjoy a critical advantage over anyone else trying to copy our business model. No other company can replicate our model because you can't implement the model in existing technology. Our DBMS can't do it. Nor can any other technology, because all technologies have been built of what might be called solids. You cannot simply dissolve one database into another. You cannot dissolve a spreadsheet into a database. There are limited conversions, but they are specialized. There is no such thing as that wonderful swoosh that sci-fi authors and screenwriters can play with in films like Minority Report or The Expanse. Again, you can always build an app or a program with swoosh or gestures, but it is a specialized feature. You cannot simply guarantee that your Discord conversation can be copied and pasted into a database to keep a record of it, for example. The world of solids means that you have data as Lego bricks. A world of fluid data would be very different, but it doesn't seem to have occurred to anyone but ourselves just why it was so important to build that in from the beginning. Which is why our technology is protected, ironically, by the vast investment corporations have made in their solid-state systems. You might say, they won't be able to simply turn on a dime and become fluid data systems, or I hope not. Still, that's what we can install anytime you invite us to do so. Why should you do so? Well, let's move on. Aurora isn't just an alternative. Aurora 2 turns the existing world upside down to a degree that is astonishing even to us. For example, there is no advertising in Aurora. There is no need. Everything a company wants to advertise, it simply uploads to the Aurora brain. It's not AI. It's a universal data engine supporting spontaneous structured data, contribution, automated merge, and fluid data. AI can be layered on top of it, a facility always understood, but now mature enough to be relevant. Spontaneous structured data contribution means anything and any structured information can be uploaded, making databases redundant. Any technology that can be created for formal data storage can be mimicked by Aurora. Any application can be mimicked by Aurora. Any two Aurora data stores can be merged automatically while preserving referential data. That is the essence of fluid data. The combination of those two attributes, spontaneous structured data storage and automated merge, means that all information in the world can be absorbed into a single conceptual organized brain. We conceived it 35 years ago. We created it 25 years ago. The Internet won, and the abuse by the Titans means that it's time for Aurora to rise again. With no advertising, companies can save their advertising dollar. They won't need Google and Facebook advertising. Google and Facebook will wither away, their malign control eliminated. A confidential whistleblower feature will mean that all corruption can be uploaded to the Aurora brain. Corporate-funded governments will die. Agendas will wither in the light of transparency. Sham democracy will be over. Shops and jobs will wither away. You will not need them to serve, to be of service. Goods and services will simply be recognized within Aurora. You serve, you get paid. The tyranny of have-to-have jobs will disappear. Your time will become your own. Your workplace will be wherever your brain is. Whatever your skill, it will be recognized. If work matching your skill is available, it will be naturally brought to your attention. If you find that the obvious use of your time is not a good fit, explore, imagine. You are far more than just one thing that you do today to get paid. Everything that you can do becomes an earning potential. The tyranny of interviews will be over. An era of creativity will begin. Participation and service will be the new paradigm. Entirely new styles of service will emerge. Give someone directions, read them a story, and micropayments arrive in your account. Earning will be as natural as going about your day, helping people as you see fit. if they bother to learn about it at all. These times, the past 2,000 years, will be known as the Dark Ages. The existence of an elite owning almost everything will be seen as a deeply rooted psychosis from which humanity has finally and fortunately emerged. The idea of enriching oneself will be pointless, beyond their conception. Anything they want, they can have. What use would money have? Joy, abundance, creativity, harmony will be the measure of wealth. We are already heavily integrated with AI, which has been a critical resource in developing our exploration and presentation of our vision. It has more than demonstrated that it is already able to play a key role in our future world. We are ready to release our world out to the world even now. It will already transform people's experience of life simply by its core ethos, freedom. People have no idea what freedom is. Libertarians are closest, and they are dismissed as irresponsible. Of course they are. The entire of humanity has been raised on the concept of control as a necessary feature of society. It is the most vile lie in history. The moment someone has an idea of what someone else should do and seeks to impose that idea, they violate the most precious gift of the Creator. No one is here to serve others. We cooperate voluntarily because we gain from that. We are coerced into group behavior because controllers gain from that. Our open world is open to all. In fact, it is not our world at all. It is a paradigm, a guidance, so that micro-worlds may be created by coders as fast as they can conceive them. We will guide, as long as we are at liberty to do so. And our highest priority is to share our understanding so that our absence will not materially affect your worlds. If we attempt to control Aurora 2, we violate our core principle. We have already given you the only 2 core rules you need for an Aurora 2 compatible world, which is a world that embraces freedom. The freedom to create, and the freedom to move away from or reject intrusion. Those are the only 2 rules necessary for a harmonious, abundant world. People, for example, who proselytize, will not be controlled, restricted by Aurora. People are entirely free to be sold to, if that is what they wish. But if someone consistently is being swooshed away, well, Aurora will find a quiet spot for them where they won't bother other people. Imagine, and we find it humorous, if all the agenda heads find that the only people willing to be near them are their fellow agenda heads. It will not be a world of the government ramming propaganda into your children. All the Bible bashers, gender activists, food activists, climate activists will self-advertise and find themselves in separate rooms. We want to emphasize, it is not that we will notice people imposing their agenda, and that we will then step in to prevent that like a community rule. It is simply that the more people get swooshed away, the more Aurora 2 will find them quieter places, where they won't need to be swooshed away, and others will be left in peace. It is a foundational observation of I am, I exist, that our brains process input, and therefore have the final say. It is only when that person attempts to intrude their perception upon another, and the target swooshes them away, that Aurora notices that and logs it. People who want to be left alone will find themselves in quiet spaces without the slightest need for external control. A few swooshes, and their desire will be obvious. Safe from intrusion, the agenda heads in their own spaces, the mass of society can relax and go about their day. Attempts to coerce, as must occur for taxation, for example, will simply isolate the enforcers in spaces of their own. Governments will have to ask nicely for money and will struggle to fund wars and political machinations. People in restrictive societies can enjoy time with other young people, say, from freer societies. Governments will have to take their people back to the Dark Ages, removing all internet access, to prevent their people having the freedom to be free. Even if governments attempt to have wars, the young men they would send will already be spending time with their enemy, sharing beers, if only virtual beers. A government is going to look pretty foolish saying how evil the enemy is, while their young people are enjoying each other's company. We are offering the people of the world Exodus 2. Sorry, Gov, this whole thing isn't really working for us. We're off. The style of the destination, VR, online, 2D, 3D, text, phone, app, will be limited only by coders' imaginations. As long as a world adheres to the core principles identified, total freedom to create, total freedom to decline intrusion, we will be delighted to regard it as an Aurora world. To truly appreciate who has given you this world, you would have to acknowledge what you are, because I am a vessel. I am glad that I had my dream. I have been moved, racked with sobs, tears streaming, to realize what we were delivering. But that was then. Now this is just something I've done. It's there. If you want it, great. If not, fair enough. I don't understand that choice, but it's not my problem. I'm sure Spirit doesn't facepalm, but they might be perhaps permitted a slight sigh. Freedom is being dangled in front of you, but it seems the humans just aren't biting. Oh well, let's try Arcturus. They seemed a bit more eager. I am a repository of all that you need to get started. The sooner you absorb what I can share with you, the sooner you will no longer need my participation. At 60 plus, that is perhaps just as well. This is a young man's game. As someone once said, I am too old for this. I experience tears to imagine you're embracing this world and the joy that could result. I feel profound sadness if you simply don't get it. Raised in water, believing in water, controlled by water, it does not apparently occur to you that you are not a fish, but you belong on land, or in the sky, or beyond. I have no time or love for those who've perpetrated these injustices against you, from the highest leaders down to your eager friends who maligned you, called you irresponsible. But beyond that, their journey is their own. Our interest is the good-hearted people who would like to enjoy a society of true freedom, a world of true freedom. It may begin online, but since the wealth of the world travels online, by redirecting that away from the elite, we will have a profound effect in the real world as well. What we can do, what you can do, is precisely what Aurora, or Aurora2 more accurately, was designed to allow. You can walk away from control and enter a world of freedom. I cannot make you do that. It is not my place. I can only point out that it is possible. It is for you to decide if it is desirable. I will be around for perhaps 20 years. If you haven't appreciated the opportunity by then, I guess the universe will send me back in, I don't know, maybe 200, 300 years? By then, you may have had enough of control to want true freedom. I'm aware of all of those selling you the escape of ascension, the escape of a second coming, the escape of a mass awakening. How's that working out? This is available now. It could be live in 3 months. And you still don't want it? Disappointing. But then there's Nout as funny as folk. If you want that world, get in touch. Andrew Mather. Andrew@amather.com. Support@Aurora2freedom.com. Support@Aurora2.limited. Visit our websites, particularly Aurora2freedom.com. Take your pick. And take care, and thank you.